Let's talk about why it is super important to write your script for the teleprompter, writing for the ear versus writing for the eye. When I say writing for the ear, I mean writing to be heard and listened to rather than to be read. Think movie dialogue, which is very conversational, versus what you might read in a novel or in a white paper or in any other sort of academic copy. And the reason is that although if your audience is watching something that's recorded, they can go back and rewind if they missed something, they are very unlikely to do that unless they are super invested in whatever it is that you're saying. You don't want to give them that opportunity. There's so many distractions. So you want to make sure that they can understand every single thing that you are saying. And the way to do that is to craft a script that is written for them to listen to. You want your words to be easy, to be flowing, to be very conversational, and to be simple. If it's not a word that you would say in conversation to a friend or colleague, do not say it in your video. For example, and I'll use one from the news industry that drives me insane. When news folks are talking about snow, they call it white stuff. And when they're talking about a fire, they call it a blaze or an inferno. Now, I get it. They don't want to say the same words over and over again, but think about that. If you wouldn't call whatever the thing is that you're talking about that in a conversation, don't use the word in your script. Let's talk about specifically what writing for the ear means. The first one, which I touched on, is that you want to keep it conversational. So you want to deliver and write as if you are having a chat, not as if you are delivering a lecture in an academic institution. So, for example, instead of saying, one might consider adopting a more conversational style of communication, you might just say instead, write the way that you speak. Let's have a chat. That way it comes across as a little bit more friendly, and it is much more similar to the way that we'd have a conversation with a friend, the way that we're having one now. The next one is to keep your sentences short, simple, and clear. In fact, there's a very simple 3-word phrase that'll help you remember: shorter, sharper, clearer. Sentences should be short. And I'll give you an example of why it's hard to follow a long sentence when you are watching or listening to a video. So let's put this sentence up on the screen. John, a professional scriptwriter who has won numerous awards in the industry, prefers to write during the tranquility of night. That is not very conversational. And it's also very, very long. And it requires you to go back and forth between present time and past. That sentence is a whole hot mess. Instead, you might want to write something like this. John's a pro scriptwriter. He's won tons of awards. He loves to write at night because it's peaceful. See that? Short and sweet's your mantra. If you have a whole bunch of ands, the letter and in your sentence, you probably have more than one sentence. The next tip, active voice. An active voice is naturally more dynamic, more engaging, and quite frankly, easier for your audience to follow. Here's 2 examples. Think about this. The surgery was performed by the doctor. That is not an active voice. The active voice would be the doctor performed the surgery. It is chronological and it is linear. It doesn't require your audience to do mental gymnastics or flip-flops between the direct object and the indirect object and the past tense and the current tense and the whole 9 yards. Active. The next tip is all about rhythm and pace. Just like your favorite song has a beat, your script needs to have a rhythm and a cadence as well. When I worked in the news industry, I remember watching a scriptwriter and an editor sort of in the edit bay editing a piece, and they were sort of doing this. And I thought that they were kind of crazy at the time, and I wondered what they were doing. And I thought they were a little bit crazy, but it turns out they were acting in the same way that a conductor of an orchestra would respond. They were keeping the pace and the cadence so that the piece had a flow. So let me give you an example, and we'll put these up on the screen. Listen to this. John is a writer. He loves coffee. He writes at night. Now we're going to mix it up just a little bit. John's a writer with a serious coffee addiction, and when the world sleeps, his creativity dances. Feels a little bit better, right? A little more descriptive. Next tip is don't forget to repeat key points. Tell them what you're going to say it, and then tell them what you said. It's okay to repeat. Don't be shy of repeating those key points. Your audience, they can't scroll back like they can in a blog post. It requires a lot of effort to find exactly where they need to pick you back up. So reinforce those main ideas. So if your point is keep sentences short, bring it back later. Like, remember, folks, short sentences, they're your best friends in scripting. And finally, sound. Do not forget to use sound. The thing about video is that you want to take your viewer on an experience, and you want to be able to use those images to paint a picture. I mean, and absolutely, sometimes you can listen to exactly what it is that is trying to be explained or described to you. In other cases, you have to paint that picture with your words. So for instance, imagine you're describing a car race, the sound of a car race. You could say the cars race down the track. That's short and simple and active and all that other good stuff. Or you could say something like this: the engines roared, the tires squealed, and they were off, a symphony of noise as they raced down the track, just like that, right? So you're adding actually a little bit of hand gesture. This isn't really about scripting, but you're creating a visual image. I thought of that at the top of my head. So that might not be the best sentence, but hopefully you get the idea. Above all, read that script out loud. If you read it in your head silently to yourself, you don't see those unintended tongue twisters or recognize as clearly those words that maybe you don't quite know how to pronounce. Reading out loud in the same pace and projection, which you'll deliver your script with, is exactly what you should do to practice. And here's one other quick tip to practice. If you don't have a prompter and you want to practice reading conversationally, turn on your TV, go to a dialogue and conversation-based show. So it could be, I don't know, Think Friends, or you know what I'm getting at. Turn on the closed captioning and then follow those words out loud. Say them out loud. Turn the sound off. Keep up with the pace because they're speaking conversationally. They have those scripts memorized. They're not reading them. And they will use tone and inflection as well. Now, for more on how to mark your scripts and deliver them conversationally, I will see you in these next two videos. Thanks for watching.